and I would say a way in by giving such a delightful would-be so-called biography on everybody on the planet. This biography in which you gave on everybody on the planet by telling where they came from, who their family is, how they became to be royal, how they're not royal, I would say is perfectly in order. You have it so well in line until the reading of which everyone is doing out there, I would say, is some good reading. However, 90% of the people that read it, my dear brother, they do not even take it as being true. It's like them reading some would-be so-called soap opera or some drama, and they themselves, they don't want to take it for what it is, it's reality, and it's real, it's true, and no one wants to accept that. So with saying that, I want to say to you, the information that you have gathered and given to the people this Rise and Shine Day, the United Nations is already well aware of it. There's many people in the United States of America that's aware of it, but they reject it. Reason being because a lot of them, they have these little silver spoons, they got these little gold plates, they got these cups, and they got all of this would-be, we call it paraphernalia, because it gets you high, you get drunk on it, you get deluded on it, you get confused on it. And we're talking about all of the things that people have gathered over a course of period now of about maybe 1,000 years of what is deemed to be some royal family. People are still carrying around little bitty trinkets that they got from London, England. They perhaps picked it up in Great Britain over in Westminster, where everyone goes and takes these would-be so-called family trips. They go on vacation in those locations. They then pick up these little items in which they call royal items. Let me help you out. None of those items are royal. For a matter of fact, the family that you were just speaking of, they are known as the Mountbattens. The Mountbattens has nothing to do with the royal family. Most of them, they call themselves the House of Windsor. They have nothing to do with the royal family. This is what all the nations are well aware of already. They know that none of those names have anything to do with the royal family. And even though the Muslims now are beginning to recognize that they have deemed the Prophet Muhammad as being an Arab, but at the same time they have classified him as being part of the royal family. Reason being is because everyone has to understand that even Muhammad himself was a dark-skinned man. He was a person of color. He had nothing to do with the Caucasian world, Caucasians. He didn't come from the Caucasian mountains that are in Russia, the Caucasian mountains. He didn't come from there. And he came from Africa. Everyone already knows that. But however, he himself was also not the royal family. He actually come out of a family whereby they would have been somewhat related to those that we know to be Canaanites. Mesopotamia is a place where most of the Canaanites came from. And they were classified to be those, yes, of some land that they call the motherland. But the motherland is nothing more than what everyone deems Africa to be. That's the motherland. But to have a mother, as I have stated in past would be calls and stated in past would be meetings and I have stated in past gatherings and even at the summit, I have attended the meetings that took place in Brussels. I have taken my place even all the way to what is known as Germany, Cologne, Germany. I have a would-be so-called pass where I have attended the meetings there at the Bundestag. The Bundestag is some place where the United Nations already knows it's in Germany. And it is classified to be the White House of Germany. And I have been there as well. I have been up to Denmark, Cologne, Denmark, where we had meetings and that sort of thing. In other words, what I'm getting everyone to understand now, whether you want to believe or not, there are those of us that are just individuals. And far as you're concerned, a lot of you don't really care for us. And those that do care for us, you don't see us as being anyone important or anyone special. You really can care less if you ever see us again. But you have to understand that we have what is known to the world. It's not what we know, it's who we know. And we have a lot of connections with the whole entire universe. And believe it or not, as he stated that I'm bringing you this information, no, I'm not bringing you something that could be classified as someone's would-be true future or someone's prophecy. But I also have direct connections with those people that you're talking about, that you're reading the stories about. I got direct connection with them. I don't have some contact connection with them. I got direct contact with them, whereby we talk to each other in a private setting that you might classify to be a cabal setting or a secret society setting. I do have the credentials. I have what is classified as birth certificates for everything that I've done, all the way to the 33 degrees that they claim that I so have. I am also a prince-elect. I am also known to the world as one of those Shriners. I am also known to the world as one of those that would be classified as a master. I have all of my would-be birth certificates in which they classified us as being birthed at the time that you received those certificates. That's when they say that you have been raised from a dead level, perpendicular on a square. And for a lot of the people now have heard this statement coming from a Moorish nation, a Moorish science nation, where they say that they have had all of these would-be degrees bestowed upon them by some manner, where they claim to have been to the middle or the interim of the sanctum of sanctorium. I would have to say to the average Moorish science temple member that if you have not yet been to these nations, if you have not yet entered those caves or that which they deem to be Frankenstein's castle, or you haven't been into any of those places, those degrees that you have or those things that you say you're qualified to do, we classify them as being sublime degrees. Those sublime degrees mean that you're not truly of those degrees. You have been given a would-be, so-called would-be substitute of those degrees, but you don't have the true degrees. And all of those true degrees have been bestowed upon those who are truly part of those who have been there. And that's where we're at. We have truly been there, and thereby you have to maintain the fact that we receive these degrees based upon being physically there, attending those meetings. Other than that, you're only a sublime, and thereby you're not truly of those degrees whatsoever. So we have to actually understand exactly how the world has been developed, how it was designed to be, who all is actually part of it, and who has not been classified as being part of the world. There's leaders all over the planet right now that I am talking to that are listening to me right at this very moment. They don't show up on your screen. They're not going to be part of your would-be social, would-be clubhouse, or any other meeting that you might be having on some social site. But they are those that are truly listening to you as well, because those devices in which you're using are designed to be sent as a would-be frequency onto those of the true would-be membership of what is classified as the secret society. Many of you are sitting on your sites, your social sites, and I'm saying this because the United Nations is already well aware of this. You're sitting on your social site and you're talking, not realizing that a lot of people that are listening to you are CIA, they are FBI, they are part of the bureau in which you claim to be so in fear of, but they're there, they're listening to you. I came on Facebook many years ago, only for a brief moment, and the reason why was because a lot of my friends, connections out of Langley Air Force Base wanted me to attend those would-be so-called settings only because they were known as CIA. That is where the American would-be headquarters are located for all the people that go to school to become CIA agents. Now, I'm only telling you this not to put you in a position where you start idolizing people or you start recognizing people, but I need you to be those that will be knowledgeable and understanding of that you are also being monitored even when you don't even recognize you are being monitored. You're going to be being monitored for a long time to come. Reason being is because the world has been set up where this royalty has not a whole lot to do with people, but it's got a lot to do with places and, if we might say, status. So your status kind of creates to you who you are and what you should be doing, your status. And when I say your status, I'm talking about whether you're deemed to be someone of substance or not. My family is well known all over the world. They would have been classified back when the royal families were the dark melanated families of the universe, and they all had great connections with everything that was going on and everything that was happening. And because of that, they found themselves being able to be connected by way of a world would-be summit or world would-be group. And that's what they're now trying to duplicate, or if we might say they're doing nothing more than emulating it by classifying it as being in Divos. And Divos just means devil. That's what it means. It's a Latin term for devil, Divos. Divos is a place where everyone goes now to meet for these would-be so-called world summits. But that's because it was taken over by a diabolic group of those that were classified to be evil, wicked men and women. And I am going to make sure I say women as well, because they're classified to be more rich women on the planet than there are rich men. And we're talking about those that came from a royal family. Reason being because the majority of them, their dads died off. And they lost the fact of the Holy Bible, the Holy Scriptures, in which were nothing more than the laws that everyone was supposed to go by. So in the book of Numbers, there's a 48th chapter that one has to read, that it tells them that the only way the daughters, their wives, their sisters would have had any type of would-be power, leadership, or connection with the world would have been through their fathers, their uncles, their brothers. And because a lot of the females now, they found themselves marrying out of the family and signing over some document in which is now it's available all over America. And if where America claims that a lady becomes equal to her husband after she's married to him. And believe it or not, the laws of the would-be first century, they all but stated that the men were to give the ladies a marriage certificate. Thereby, they would be able to protect their inheritance rather than to allow their inheritance to get away from them. And that's why America came up with that rule, that law, where they started calling it some would-be so-called property of a community property. They went from calling it community property to classifying it as property in which the wife inherited, that she could pass it on to some jackleg guy that would be nothing more than a baby's daddy, that she would present him as the leader at some point in time, which is exactly what is being done around Queen Elizabeth's moment. Queen Elizabeth is very much one of those people. Her mother, which was at one time classified to be royal, but her father was not royal. That's how she was able to attain it, not through her father, but through her husband. So after her marrying would be the king's son, after the king died, she went on to claim it as community property, or by way of classifying it as being her inheritance through her husband's death. All of these things have to be known by the world of what we call the judiciary world right now, because that's what we're dealing with. A judiciary world whereby laws and judges have been able to control the world through nothing more than made-up law that was made up by the British Empire, which is classified to be the world's BAR, or what we know it to be, bar. Whenever a lawyer goes to school, he has to take a test. He has to take a test that's called the bar test. And that bar test, he has to pass it in order to be able to become part of a membership of those that will be part of a judiciary system, through judiciary principles, not laws, but judiciary principles. And that's where Queen Elizabeth and them comes in at. They bring in this judiciary principle whereby it even states that once a lady marries another male, she can then pass on her inheritance to him, even though he's a lazy bum of a baby's daddy, and whereby he becomes sole owner or leader of some other man's hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. And that's not really law at all, which is why now a lot of those things are being overwritten in the United States of America. So for you females that are listening to me now, whether you be in Portland, Maine, or in Portland, the nation in Portland, I need you to understand that you haven't inherited anything. And it's only a matter of time before all the baby mamas are going to be put back in their place. And I'm not calling you that in reference to you having a child out of wedlock, or you having a child with some deadbeat dad. That's not why I'm calling you baby mama. I'm calling you a baby mama because we have to understand that that is a strong line of leadership based upon a judiciary principle, and it does not have any stamp on it for you. And unless you came from a royal family, whereby your fathers would have passed it on to you, or your brothers would have passed it on to you, or your uncles would have passed it on to you, you don't have those powers, or those judiciary powers. And if you did receive it from that, you cannot pass it on. Neither can some deadbeat daddy claim it just because he's angry with you. That don't happen. He wants to split, tell him sayonara, or so long, or adios. You can tell him he can go. But at the same time, he has to realize that because he came into the marriage with nothing, if that had been the case, he would leave with nothing. And that's when the principle of, again, the scriptures of the Bible, which is known as the law, would come out telling him, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You came with nothing, you will leave with nothing. Now, I'm only giving all of this to you right now because I know we have left our brother Mark here as our host for the day, and I want to get him to understand. It's not just that the world knows me as Yahushua Machika, but they also knows me as the voice of truth based upon the only judiciary system that we have on this planet. It's called the law. Those laws are the laws of God. They are part of 613 laws in which the world classifies as the laws of Moses. Everyone goes by those laws. And those laws are strictly set up for the many would-be billions of people that are on the planet. And it's not going to change no time soon just because someone wants them to change. because someone deems that they have made enough money to make them the change. That's not going to happen. We know that this world will be terminated by God, being that we try to allow ourselves to accept any other laws other than those that are present on the planet now. So I want myself to give this information out as the United Nations is listening, because they already understand this. They have already been with me when I was in those areas such as Cologne, Germany. They were there with me in Hamburg, Germany. They have been with me in Brussels, in France. They have went down to the praying boy there where he's peeing in a pool. All these things have already taken place, so I don't have to present myself to the rest of the world as who I am or what I've been doing or where I came from. Those of you who believe, you believe. Those who don't believe, you'll be lost. Who cares? That's not our concern. At the end of the day, all I have to do is keep doing and being who I am. I don't have to impress any of you. I don't have to come with some way of proving it to any of you. You know, and as my philosophy would be, and the whole world would tell you, they already know Dr. Henderson. They do know me by YAHUDA. They also, there's parts of the country like Arab, they know me by Abraham, Yitzhak, YAQUB, YAHUDA. So I don't have just one name in any one particular area. There's many names that they call me by, that they recognize my face, they recognize my energy, they recognize my spirit, and they also recognize me as I come, knowing that I am going to present myself as a nobody, trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody. They already know that's exactly how I'm going to come. However, they know that I am the voice of reckoning. They also know that I am the voice of reasoning. They also know that I am the voice of the right and the might, based upon the letters of this planet. So I don't have to prove myself. And by me explaining myself right now, they would tell you this is out of character because I don't normally get into the aspects of explaining myself, especially to those who are going to walk away and truly leave by saying, I don't believe. Based upon the fact that it's kind of like a business guy passing out his would-be business cards. I would tell him that he will probably pass out 100% of his business card, and 90% of them will end up on the floor. They will end up on the ground. They will end up in the toilet. They will end up in trash cans. I would have to say to you that all of these things are happening is because the majority of the people don't believe. They have no mindset to believe anything because they've been abused so much on the planet until now they reject everything that comes to them in truth. Mark, what I'm doing right now is I want you to understand that I'm talking now in this lengthy form because you're not going to have to take a break. You're not going to have to return for this call. I know we have a later call that goes to the U.S. of A later today, and I want you to make sure, just as you was for this call, to be well prepared for it. This is something that we're doing now, and I want you to understand, Mark, you may be looking at numbers, you may be seeing numbers, but I need you to understand that this call will be listened to by 198 nations at a later date. They will be listening to this particular call. Those of them that are listening now, the small numbers that you see, are actually headquarter locations. Right now, whenever you see a call on there where you see these numbers that say 0000, and you are like saying, well, that's not really a telephone number. Yes, it is. It's a headquarters number to not just one individual, but there are people sitting in what we know to be a diocese. A diocese is where the Catholics kind of hang out at. And believe it or not, those Catholics, they go all the way to what we know to be St. Peter's. And so the Pope, he gets to listen to, he listens to my calls. He understands exactly what I'm saying. As a matter of fact, over the course of a period of time now, everything that I speak to him about, it happens. He already knows. He's not going to contest me. He's not going to come and speak on an international channel or some national channel in his area to say that what Dr. Henderson, Abraham, Yitzhak, YAQUB, YAHUDA, Yehoshua, Mashika, Shadabaku, whatever they call me by those names, he's not going to say Shuboka. He's not going to say he's lying. He's not going to disagree with me, and he's not going to question me because he knows it will be blasphemy. And blasphemy will end him up in eternal death. And the Pope wants to come back to this world just as you do. So with saying that, I want to say to you, you have done a brilliant job. Shelley is one who still people don't know if she believes or not, but Shelley has been with me now for going on 20 years. Shelley has not just hung around for 20 years. She has been there and experienced me doing things and seeing things happen that only one has to see with their eyes to recognize this is not of man. It did not come from this world. It It did not find itself by way of just being thrown to some black man just because he is one who walks around with a bald head and he can be easily fallen in love with by those who do so. I have no would-be control over that. But what I do let them know is that I am here for my Father, and my Father comes first. And those things that I will comply with. Yes, I get to live a human life just like any other man does. I can do that, but that's my call. However, I just know that my Father comes first. So when I do step out and be a man, I need people to understand that just as man does, man is not infallible, but he's fallible most of the time. That means that we all can make mistakes on this planet. However, we're still considered to be perfectly unable to make mistakes in the eyes of our Father, YAHALLAH, God of the universe, the one in whom many call him Allah. There's others that call him Jesus the Christ. Some call him Shabuka. Some call him Shahid. Some call him El Shaddai. Some call him Adonai. But you have to understand that even all these names, whether they call him Elyon or whether they call him Eli, he is still only but one God, and he rules the entire universe. I am so glad that I am only a servant of his by way of being his son, in whom he has found delight and pleasure in. Where he says, behold, I have claimed you to be my son. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations with an as your inheritance. And I will give you the entire earth as your possessions. All you have to do is comply with what I've asked you to do, and you are to break the unrighteous with a rod of iron. And you are to destroy them off the planet. That is why I've come, and that is why I will remain here until every unrighteous has been deleted off the planet. And I will make sure that I voice this to every unrighteous person on the planet, no matter what title he may come under. Judge, lawyer, police officer, sheriff, whatever title he may come under. King, queen, sheik, grand sheik, whether he come under any title. Babylon, Salua, it doesn't matter. If he come under any title on this planet, I will deem it to be a title of nobility, and I will destroy it when that ability comes, that it no longer is needed on the planet to rule mankind. But now, I looked outside my window. It is now day, and I, being a man and a righteous mind, realize that man must work while it's still day, for when night cometh, no man can work. My work must go on. For you, United Nations, you get an opportunity to sleep for a moment. It is beginning to get dark in your area. I say to you, go ahead, get your rest, close your eyes, and just relax. I got this shift, and this shift is going to be a perfect shift of protection. Peace and love, and nightfall.